I tried. I stumbled sometimes, but I tried.
The entertainment world was shaken by heartbreaking news. Eric Dane has died at the age of 53. Known to millions as the confident Dr. Mark Sloan in Grey's Anatomy, and later as Cal Jacobs in Euphoria, Eric Dane was more than a television star. He was a father, a colleague, and a man who faced his final years with remarkable courage. His death came after a painful battle with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, ALS, a devastating neurological disease that gradually takes away a person's ability to move, speak, and breathe over time. The illness weakened his body, but those close to him say his spirit remained strong until the end. The loss has left family, friends, and fans across the world grieving. For many in Hollywood and beyond, Eric Dane was not only a talented actor, but also a symbol of resilience in the face of unimaginable hardship. The battle with ALS, from diagnosis to decline. When Eric Dane first revealed that he had been diagnosed with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, the news stunned both fans and colleagues. The announcement came after months of medical testing and growing concern about changes in his physical condition. Soon after the diagnosis became public, several members of the cast of Grey's Anatomy publicly expressed their support. Messages of encouragement spread quickly across social media and entertainment outlets. Eric Dane addressed the illness directly. He did not hide the seriousness of the disease. At the same time, he made it clear that ALS would not define his spirit. In one statement that circulated widely among fans, he said, "This disease is slowly taking my body, but it will never take my spirit." ALS attacks the nerve cells that control voluntary muscle movement. Over time, muscles weaken and stop functioning. For Eric Dane, the early symptoms appeared gradually. His speech began to slow. Certain words became difficult to pronounce. Small movements, such as lifting objects or maintaining balance, required greater effort. Friends later said the changes became more visible during the following months. His ability to speak clearly continued to decline. Conversations sometimes required patience as he struggled to finish sentences. Eating and swallowing also became difficult. A common symptom of ALS as the muscles in the throat weaken. In the final stage of the illness, his mobility dropped sharply. Standing for long periods became impossible. Eventually, he relied on a wheelchair for movement. One friend who spoke with him about a week before his death described a rapid decline in his overall quality of life. His body had grown extremely weak, and basic physical actions required assistance. Yet the emotional tone of those conversations surprised many people. Instead of focusing on the disease itself, Eric Dane often spoke about resilience. In several interviews and private conversations, he repeated the same simple advice: never give up, outlast anything. Another phrase he often used with friends and fans was even shorter: keep the faith. Man. These words reflected the mindset he maintained throughout his illness. Even as ALS progressed, he tried to remain active and connected with others. His final public appearance became one of the most widely shared images of that period. In November, photographers captured him arriving at Los Angeles International Airport, LAX. He sat in a wheelchair while assistants helped guide him through the terminal. His body appeared visibly weaker than before, but his expression remained calm. For many observers, the image became symbolic. It showed the physical reality of ALS, while also revealing the determination with which he faced it. The disease had taken away much of his physical strength. But by that time, Eric Dane had already made a personal decision about how he would confront the illness, with honesty, persistence, and dignity. His final days and the support of friends and colleagues in the final weeks of his life. The physical condition of Eric Dane had declined sharply. The progression of amyotrophic lateral sclerosis had weakened nearly every part of his body. Speaking required effort. Moving without assistance had become almost impossible. Yet people who saw him during those final days noticed something striking. His spirit had not changed. A few days before his death, television producer Brad Falchuk visited him. Falchuk had known Dane for years and understood how difficult the illness had become. When he walked into the room, the physical toll was obvious. The disease had reduced the once athletic actor to a fragile figure whose body could no longer respond the way it once had. But the conversation that followed surprised him. Despite the weakness of his body, Dane remained mentally sharp. He spoke slowly, but he spoke clearly. Falchuk later recalled that what stood out most was the strength of his character in that moment. His spirit was so strong no matter how weak his body got. During their conversation, the two men discussed the reality of the illness. ALS had progressed rapidly, and both of them understood what that meant. At one point, Falchuk asked him whether he had found peace with what was happening. Dane answered with honesty. He said he was as much at peace as any man can be. He did not pretend to welcome death. He did not claim to be unafraid, but he acknowledged the situation with a level of calm acceptance that left an impression on those around him. Even so, when the news of his passing finally arrived, many of his friends struggled to absorb it. Falchuk later admitted that the loss still felt unreal. "I'm still a little bit in shock about it." Behind the scenes, several friends had stepped in to support him during the most difficult phase of his illness. Among them was actor Johnny Depp, who quietly offered him a place to stay in Los Angeles when medical expenses and living costs began to increase. The arrangement reflected a simple act of kindness. Dane was allowed to live in the property and contribute financially only if he could. The agreement was described in straightforward terms. Pay what you can. The gesture removed a heavy financial burden and allowed him to focus on his health and his family at the same time. Falchuk helped ensure that Dane's voice would still be heard even as his condition worsened. He assisted in producing an interview connected to the Netflix documentary Famous Last Words, in which Dane reflected on his life and the reality of living with ALS. Those conversations would later take on deeper meaning after his death. They captured a man confronting the end of his life with honesty and dignity. His body was failing, but the determination that had defined his career remained visible until the very end. Family and the final message: love, responsibility, and farewell. Behind the public image of Eric Dane stood a family that remained central to his life until the very end. Despite the challenges brought by illness, his role as a father and former husband continued to shape the way he viewed his life. Dane had been married to actress Rebecca Gayheart. Although the couple had been separated for nearly 8 years, their relationship remained respectful and cooperative. They shared 2 daughters, Billy and Georgia. Even after the separation, both parents stayed involved in raising them. In the later years of his life, the girls spent most of their time with Dane, and he remained closely connected to their daily lives. People close to the family often noted that the separation never turned into conflict. Instead, the two maintained a calm and supportive co-parenting relationship. Dane himself often explained that Gayheart would always hold a special place in his life because she was the mother of his children. He also acknowledged that he had never loved another woman as deeply as he once loved her. Even though their romantic relationship had ended, the respect between them remained intact, according to friends. Dane continued to speak about her with admiration. At one point, he described her as someone he considered almost perfect and said he had no criticism to offer. The tone of those remarks suggested that the emotional connection between them had evolved into something quieter, but still meaningful. As his illness progressed, his attention increasingly shifted toward the legacy he would leave for his daughters. About 3 months before his death, he recorded a personal message for the Netflix documentary Famous Last Words. During that recording, he reflected on his life, his mistakes, and the effort he had made to grow as a person. rather than presenting himself as someone who had always succeeded. He admitted that his life had included moments of failure. However, he emphasized that he had always tried to do better, even when he stumbled along the way. For him, the most important thing was the willingness to keep trying. He also spoke about memories that had become especially meaningful as his health declined. Many of those memories involved time spent with his daughters at the ocean. Over the years, he had taken them to several beaches, including Malibu and Santa Monica. The family had also traveled together to places such as Hawaii and Mexico. Looking back, he described those trips as some of the happiest moments of his life. In the recording, he suggested that those days had felt like a kind of heaven for him. They represented simple happiness rather than fame or professional success. Toward the end of the message, he focused directly on advice for his daughters. He encouraged them to fall deeply in love with something that gave their lives meaning. According to Dane, discovering passion and joy was one of the most important goals a person could pursue. He also urged them to remain strong when facing challenges. He hoped they would fight for the things that mattered to them and carry themselves with dignity and confidence. Friends who later watched the recording described it as deeply emotional. The message revealed a father who knew his time was limited but still wanted to guide his children as they moved forward in life. Those who knew him well often emphasized how seriously he took his role as a parent. One close friend explained that Dane had always been a devoted father and that his affection for Gayheart never completely disappeared. Even after their marriage ended, during the final stage of his illness, his family remained close to him as the effects of amyotrophic lateral sclerosis grew more severe. They stayed by his side and supported him through the last chapter of his life. In the end, the message he left behind was not centered on fame or career achievements. It focused on effort, love, and the importance of living with purpose. Career and notable roles, from early television to his final performances. The acting career of Eric Dane stretched across more than 2 decades of television and film. Over that time, he appeared in multiple popular series, gradually building a reputation as a dependable television actor before achieving international recognition. One of his earliest appearances came in the 1990s when he appeared in an episode of Saved by the Bell. The role was small, but it introduced him to the television industry and opened the door to additional opportunities. During the early stage of his career, he continued to accept guest roles while searching for more substantial characters. In the early 2000s, he appeared in the fantasy drama Charmed, where he worked alongside actress Alyssa Milano. Around 2003, the two briefly dated, a detail that often appeared in entertainment headlines at the time. Although the relationship was short-lived, it contributed to growing public attention toward Dane as an emerging actor. His career changed dramatically when he joined the cast of Grey's Anatomy. In the series, he played the confident plastic surgeon Mark Sloan, a character who quickly earned the nickname McSteamy among fans. His first appearance in the show became one of the most memorable introductions in the history of the series. The character entered the scene wrapped only in a towel. Producers later explained that the moment was intentionally designed to establish the character's bold personality. According to behind-the-scenes discussions, the production team even adjusted the towel carefully so that it created the impression that nothing was worn underneath. The role transformed Eric Dane into a widely recognized television star. The character of Mark Sloan remained part of the show for several seasons and helped solidify Grey's Anatomy as one of the most successful medical dramas in television history. Years later, Dane entered a very different type of television project when he joined the cast of Euphoria. In the series, he played Cal Jacobs, a deeply troubled father struggling with addiction and a hidden double life. At one point, Dane acknowledged that the character felt personally familiar to him. He explained in interviews that Cal's struggles with alcohol and secrecy mirrored parts of his own past, particularly his earlier battles with drugs and alcohol. By the time he joined the show, however, he had already achieved sobriety and approached the role with a more reflective perspective. Even as his health began to decline due to amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, he continued to accept demanding roles. In the medical drama, Brilliant Minds, he portrayed a firefighter living with ALS, a role that closely resembled the illness he was confronting in real life. Some viewers later described the performance as unusually powerful because the actor was portraying a reality he personally understood. Another project, the action series Countdown, cast him as an FBI agent. Even while dealing with the early stages of ALS, he continued to appear on set and complete filming schedules. Friends and colleagues later revealed that performing had become physically difficult. Delivering lines required effort, as the disease weakened his speech. At one point, he acknowledged that ALS made even simple dialogue challenging, explaining that surviving the illness was impossible and that even getting the lines out could become a struggle. Despite these obstacles, he refused to withdraw from his profession. His final on-screen appearance came in an episode of Euphoria released in April, only months before his death. After the news of his passing spread, Sam Levinson, the creator of Euphoria, reflected on their collaboration. Levinson said that working with Eric Dane had been an honor and described their friendship as a gift. Another supporter during that period was actress Sharon Stone, who reportedly helped advocate for him to receive the role in the series by the time his life ended. Eric Dane had built a career defined not only by memorable characters, but also by persistence. Even as ALS gradually weakened his body, he continued working, determined to remain an actor for as long as possible. Reactions from colleagues, the community, and tributes. After the death of Eric Dane was confirmed, tributes quickly spread across Hollywood. Actors, producers, and longtime collaborators shared messages describing both his character and the impact he had on the people who worked with him. Many of the earliest responses came from members of the cast and creative team behind Grey's Anatomy, the series that had helped define his career. Several of his former co-stars spoke about the strength he showed during his battle with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. Some described him as a solid and dependable presence on set. Others said they loved him deeply and had continued sending him encouragement and positive energy as his illness progressed. A number of colleagues also expressed admiration for the courage he demonstrated while facing the disease. Series creator Shonda Rhimes also paid tribute publicly. She shared a video montage that revisited several of Dane's most memorable moments as Mark Sloan, alongside the footage. She wrote that she remained grateful for the friendship they had shared over the years. The production team later announced that an upcoming episode of the series would include a tribute in his memory. Outside the show, other figures in the entertainment industry reflected on their own experiences with him. Actress Alyssa Milano, who had worked with Dane earlier in his career on Charmed, shared an emotional message describing the qualities she remembered most. She said he possessed a rare mix of energy, humor, and tenderness that made him unforgettable to those who knew him. Another tribute came from actress Sharon Stone, who had helped advocate for Dane during the later stage of his career. She explained that seeing him receive an important role before his health declined further meant a great deal to her, according to Stone. Knowing that he had the chance to work again during that time was deeply meaningful. Actor Jensen Ackles also joined the tributes. In his message, he referred to Dane as a brother and said he hoped their paths would cross again someday. Beyond Hollywood, the reaction from audiences was equally strong. Fans shared memories of the characters Dane had played and the personal strength he displayed during his illness. Online messages frequently mentioned how openly he had discussed the realities of ALS and how that honesty helped raise awareness of the disease. For many people, his story became more than the career of a television actor. It became an example of how someone could continue working, speaking, and encouraging others even while facing a serious medical condition. In that sense, the response from colleagues and fans reflected something larger than grief alone. It also reflected respect for the determination he showed during the most difficult chapter of his life. Legacy and final message. The lessons. Eric Dane. Left behind. The life of Eric Dane ultimately left behind more than a list of television roles. In the final stage of his battle with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, he focused increasingly on the message he wanted people to remember. In interviews and recorded reflections, Dane repeatedly emphasized the importance of living in the present. He encouraged people not to postpone meaningful experiences, explaining that life could change quickly and without warning. According to him, the most important decision a person could make was to value the time they still had. He also spoke about perseverance. Even as ALS gradually weakened his body, he continued to encourage others to fight for their lives and their goals with determination. Dane believed that dignity came from refusing to surrender mentally, even when physical circumstances became overwhelming, in his view. People should keep fighting with every ounce of strength they possessed, and continue doing so until their final breath. Another theme that appeared frequently in his reflections was purpose. During the most difficult period of his illness, he explained that maintaining a sense of purpose helped him endure the daily challenges of ALS, whether through acting, speaking publicly about the disease, or guiding his daughters. He believed that having something meaningful to focus on gave him the strength to keep moving forward. This attitude gradually became a central part of his legacy. Many people remembered him not only as a talented actor from Grey's Anatomy and Euphoria, but also as someone who faced a devastating illness with unusual openness. His story also contributed to greater public awareness of ALS. By speaking honestly about the symptoms and challenges of the disease, he helped audiences better understand what patients experience during its progression. Yet those closest to him often described his legacy in simpler terms. They remembered him as a devoted father who placed his daughters at the center of his life. They remembered a colleague who remained committed to his work even when it became physically difficult. And they remembered a man who tried to encourage others during a period when many people might have chosen silence. In the end, Eric Dane's final message was not complicated. It centered on living fully, fighting through hardship, and holding on to purpose even when circumstances seemed impossible.